how this love thing goes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Studio W, The Buzz, your global radio network. We circle this thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with some of the finest programs you can find anywhere around the world. And I'm going to ask that you do us a favor. If you like this program, please hit like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, also that Apple app. Feel free to download that. That way you can take us with you all day, every day. And that is Studio W in the Apple App Store, and your Google Play Store, also available on Alexa. So welcome everyone to the Boomerang. I see one of my hosts, my main man, Mad Mike there. Hey, Mad Man, what's going on, brother?
I'm just sliding through life. And by the way, if our fans up, hang on, let me kill. Okay, if our fans don't like what we're doing, by the way, feel free to send William all the constructive criticism so he can do better.
Yeah, that's Mike at Studio W. Is that Mike? That's Studio W Buzz? Is that what it is?
No, it's Mr. Ward to you.
It's Mike, folks. All right. Okay.
Well, I can't see it. Normally, it's under my face here.
Okay. You can't see it? Let's do this. Let's go on and enlarge this baby here. All right. How about that? Okay. I still don't see your. I see part of your email address.
Yeah. Remember, we had this issue where it's zoomed in too far, where you can't see the whole picture, and it cuts out my email address.
Oh, okay. Let's do this. All right.
You had it fixed.
Let's see if we. Okay.
Anyway, everyone, we're happy that you're here with us for the Boomerang show, and the rest of the panel has other things going on that are very important, and they're taking care of business with their family and such. So it's just going to be William and I today, and we're going to have a good time no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Grib may join us. I sent him an invite. He sent me a text earlier today and said that he would be available. So I will send him a text shortly. Anyway, let's get to the program. I need to do this so I can get to some clips. A little trivia for you and history. This is Black History Month, and so we're going to talk about that quite a bit today. Let's see what we can do here. Okay. All right. I've got a clip I want to play that many of you may not know. Well, let's see. It's a story that a lot of people may not be aware of. So let's do this. Okay, where are you? Okay. Oh, okay. Share screen. All right. Guys, I hope your day is going well. And this is, they didn't teach you this in school. Let's try this. Okay. History didn't teach you this in school. Scholars have left him out of the history books, and Hollywood couldn't be bothered to acknowledge his existence. He was Howard Hughes' top engineer and a lifelong best friend. This is about Frank Mann, the hidden genius behind much of Howard Hughes' success in the world of aviation and mechanics. Frank Calvin Mann, born, November 22nd, 1908, and he died November the 30th, 1992. He was an African-American engineer who was known for his participation in many Howard Hughes projects, including the Spruce Goose. Remember the plane, Mike, the Spruce Goose, Howard Hughes? Madman. Okay, did I lose you? Okay. Anyway, let me move on. Let's see.
I got to unmute myself. I'm sorry. I was trying to get back to you. I do remember the Spruce Goose because it wasn't too far from where I lived. I lived in Ventura County, and it was parked down at the Long Beach Harbor for a great deal of time. And I think eventually, decades ago, they moved it to a hangar that had air quality control and temperature control and all that to preserve it. But that was quite a monumental feat. They look it up, folks. Look up the Spruce Goose.
Mann also starred in the Amos and Andy radio show. I used to love Amos and Andy. And it was also on TV a while, and then they took it off. We'll get into it a little bit later on. Apparently, his lifelong friendship with Hughes was instrumental in opening doors for man's exceptional talents. A native of Houston, Texas, Frank Calvin Mann parents wanted him to become a school teacher, but from childhood he had he had a natural ability to fix things. At age 11, he had his own mechanic shop. Can you imagine? At the age of 11, as a teenager, he worked alongside airplane mechanics, repairing engines. By uh, the age of 20, he had designed and built several of his own Model T cars. It was unheard of in the 1920s for a black man to have anything to do with cars, trains, or airplanes. His lifelong friend, Howard Hughes, was instrumental in opening doors for Mann's exceptional talents. Mann attended the University of Minnesota and UCLA, where he earned a mechanical engineer degree. World War II equipment that revolutionized military weaponry would not exist if not for his involvement. Incredibly, few Americans are aware of Frank Mann. He was the first black commercial pilot for American Airways. He was
No
also
kidding.
distinguished a military officer in 1935, following Italy's invasion of Ethiopia. Frank Mann flew reconnaissance missions for the Ethiopian army. Interesting. He served in World War II Army Corps and was the primary civilian instructor of those famous Tuskegee Airmen in 1941. He left Tuskegee, and they were known as the Red Tails, by the way, and never lost a sortie. He left Tuskegee after a rift with the U.S. government, which didn't want the squadron of an all-black unit flying the same high-caliber airplanes as their white counterparts. And angry Mann had refused to have his men fly World War biplane crates, okay, which because his airmen had proven themselves as equals, though they were being given inferior equipment and materials. Their squadron never lost a plane, bomber, or pilot, and they were nicknamed the Red Tails. After the war, Mann was instrumental in designing the first Buick LeSabre. Interesting. Automobile and the first communication satellite launched for commercial use. His pride and joy was a miniature locomotive enshrinement in the Smithsonian Institute. Mann also played a principal role in the Amos and Andy radio show I mentioned that earlier. He moved back to his hometown in the 1970s. Mann died November the 30th of 1992. Well, that's the story of Howard Hughes, one of his best friends, and also his top engineer. Interesting. That's why history needs to be preserved, folks. We really need to know what's going on, what happened in the past, and that's how improvements are made today. Many things, a lot of things that were improved were invented back in, the turn of the century, or even before, back in the 30s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, and even back in the 1800s, things were invented, and a lot of inventions were made by Black people, but they weren't able to get patents in a lot of cases, and they weren't able, or they were stolen, or just not given credit. So with that, but welcome to the set. I see Mr. Greer A. Webb. Hey, Greer.
Good morning, guys, or good evening. Sorry, how's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, pretty good. Welcome back. Welcome back. You
Thank you.
sent me a text. You sent me a text a few days ago, and you've had quite a journey, and you've met a lot of interesting people. You've done a lot of interesting things. I want you to take it over from right now. Tell us, what have you been up to?
Well, first of all, it's great to see both of y'all. I know we've got an all-male panel tonight. Hopefully Ann is not offended, or Dr. Sims, but I'm loving the opportunity to be back with y'all. I actually did hear some of the end of that Black History Month fact, that Black History fact, Brother Brown, and I think that was great. I did not know about either of those men. I have seen the movie Red Tails, And I know about the Tuskegee Airmen, but I didn't know about the engineering. And I think it's just so interesting every time I hear about a Black person who contributed to the field of either science, technology, engineering, or math, because we don't hear those stories a lot. But there's also that movie that you all may have seen called Hidden Figures with Taraji P. Henson and Kevin Costner, I believe, where they tell the story of how Black women have been so instrumental into so many of NASA's big feats. So I do think it's important that Black history sticks around and that we tell the story, as we've all said on this show before, in a way that's honest and truthful and equal. So I'm glad to be back. Brother Brown, you're probably alluding to this morning. I love being in Atlanta. I call it the cradle of culture. We all know it's the cradle of the civil rights movement, and Dr. King grew up here, but I had the opportunity to visit this morning Atlanta's oldest Black church. For those of you listening in or maybe watching us, I'm currently in Atlanta, and this is where I will stay after graduating to begin my career in the law. And I had the opportunity to swing by Atlanta's oldest Black church this morning. This is also the church out of which Morris Brown College was birthed. And so I had the opportunity this morning to hear from the guest speaker, who was none other than Mark H. Morial, the president of the National Urban League, one of the nation's leading civil rights organizations. He was also the former mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana, and his father, Dutch Morial, was the first Black man to graduate from LSU Law School. And so he was the guest speaker this morning at Big Bethel AME Church, it is called.
Oh, he froze.
Oh, wow, he froze on us. All right, that's okay. We'll continue, Greer. You froze for a minute.
I'm sorry.
Back up about 2 sentences and go again.
Okay, so I had the opportunity this morning to stop by Big Bethel AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal. That is a denomination that has had a lot of influence over Black history in this country. And the guest speaker was Mark Morial of the National Urban League. His father, Dutch Morial, was the first Black man to graduate from LSU Law School. Mark Morial, who's about 60 years old, is the former mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana. And so he stopped by to deliver an inspiring word. We also heard from U.S. Senator John Ossoff. He was in the building and gave us a word about what the United States Senate is hoping to accomplish this year and what his thoughts are on some of the recent newsmaking moments, like the FBI's investigation, which is ongoing, of the Fulton County Election Center. On that note, the Fulton County DA was also in attendance, Fani Willis, who people have their own views on, but she's very known here in Georgia for 2 reasons primarily. One is that she took on Trump. Unfortunately, that case is no longer around, but that was the case that resulted in President Trump's mugshot being taken and spread around. She also oversaw the YSL trial, which I think I talked about my first time on the show. It's the state of Georgia's longest criminal trial. It's now over, in which they were trying to charge some of the nation's top rappers with a RICO crime, and that didn't work out so well. Actually, interestingly, Fani Willis said that the YSL rap label was responsible for over half of the crime in the city of Atlanta. That got a lot of pushback. So she was there this morning, as well as was the Fulton County Commissioner, Mo Ivory, who has gone viral in the last few weeks because she was recording on her phone when the FBI burst in to the Fulton County Elections building and took ballots out of there. And so we had a lot of conversation about what does it look like to stand up and speak out and record people in this moment. How do we do that in a nonviolent way? What do we do? How do we talk about race in 2026? And anyway, I'm going on and on, but it was a great church service. We also obviously talked about the faith component and how faith has always been a part of civil rights and Black history in this country. Beyond that, Brother Brown, I've had the opportunity to help assist in the Georgia governor's debates. And so we've got an election for governor later this year here in the state of Georgia. And they've been debating, Republicans and Democrats. Probably the most known name in the race is Keisha Lance Bottoms, the former mayor of Atlanta. And so we have a debate coming up next week that I've been able to take part in, help assist in preparing for. And yes, it's going great. Oh, yeah, and I guess I'm in law school still, too. So I'm trying to graduate, make it to graduation, which is May 10th, Mother's Day. So looking forward to having my mom and my family down here in Atlanta for that.
Oh, that's going to be awesome, man. That's this year.
Yes, all of that is
That is,
happening this year.
oh man, huge congrats. Now, have you
Thank
decided
you.
what area of law that you will be practicing?
I have. I guess I'll take this opportunity to break some news to everybody. I mentioned
Please.
earlier that I'll be taking the Georgia bar exam here in July. After that, I am grateful to share that I do have a job secured post graduation, and I'll be working here in the Atlanta area at an employment law and civil rights firm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Well,
civil rights
I'm
is
really
that
glad.
the
I'm really
area?
glad that you're going to be employed, Greer, because William and I, we both need our Social Security. We need people like you feeding into it. So I'm happy. I'm happy you're going to be gainfully employed.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy too, so I can stop eating these ham and cheese sandwiches.
Just don't
Now,
do top
civil
ramen.
rights-
Don't do the top ramen. Too much
I
salt
can't
and
do
fat. It's
ramen.
bad
I
for
did that in
It's
college.
bad
I
for you.
refuse. I refuse.
That's bad for you.
Now, is civil rights, is that the area that you will be practicing?
That will be the primary area. Employment, some people consider employment rights to be up under civil rights. You know, the right to work, the right to not be discriminated against at work. We also take wage and hour claims, people who work overtime and claim that they have not been paid for it. Mike, to your point, we actually do take cases of folks who feel that they're owed money from the federal government or from the state government, retirees in the state of Georgia who believe that they're owed money for their work. An interesting case that I worked on last summer was, because by the way, this is the firm where I worked last summer. Well, one of the interesting cases that we worked on was former state employees here in Georgia who were promised a cost of living adjustment. So we know about inflation and how it's gotten more expensive to live over the past 30, 40 years. These men and women were promised an adjustment when it comes to their pensions or when it comes to their salaries, one of the two. And they believe they didn't get that. And so those are the types of cases we take, living into the founder of the law firm's first mission, which was equal justice under the law. He helped integrate the Atlanta Fire Department. So we do employment law. We consider that civil rights, but we also do take some general civil rights cases. For example, voting discrimination cases and making sure that everyone has an easy opportunity to vote.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
But as I've said before, I also have an interest in criminal defense. So ultimately, I'm hoping to get into that space, which is one of Atlanta's top areas of law.
Oh man, well, I can say that I'm proud of you. I'm sure Mike is as well, and
Absolutely.
also your friend
you.
Rock that turned us on to you. I appreciate her very much, very much. Now, Rock was your teacher. She was your
She was my
instructor, right?
elementary school drama teacher.
Wow, and
A
you guys
small
stayed in
world.
touch all these years. All of these years, stayed in touch. That is wonderful. Speaking of civil rights, some of these cases is going on now with ICE and detentions and things of that nature. I want to hear your take on that because it seems like to me our First Amendment rights are being attacked right now. I mean, in a horrific way. And America was one of these places that you had free speech. You know, it's not Russia, it's not North Korea, it's not China, any of these places here. And I want your take on the things, especially that's going on in Chicago and Minnesota. And I found out a few weeks ago, I didn't even know it, that ICE is here in Virginia. You know, I hear the sirens going on. I can be on my balcony. I hear the sirens going on. I said, Mike, that's ICE.
I was on the phone, Greer. I was on the phone with him yesterday, and all of a sudden I hear in the background, I hear a siren, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. And William says to me, he goes, Mike, I got to go inside. ICE is here.
I mean, look, we're laughing, but that's true. They are all around. They've been here in Atlanta. They're not here in large form or force, but I'm not surprised that they're there in Virginia. Just a few quick notes, William. One, so they're actually pulling out of Minnesota. They appointed the new border czar, Tom Homan, to oversee things instead of Gregory Bovino, who's, I don't know, like a wannabe dictator dude. They got him out of there. Tom Homan's in, who actually worked with President Obama on deportations of undocumented people. And so at least back then, there were Democrats who really respected him. And so he says we don't really see any more benefit of staying here in large number or fashion. And so they're pulling out of Minnesota. They will continue to conduct targeted raids of people across the country, which that's what they're supposed to do. I don't know what's going to happen with their overall tactics and the masking and all of that. I know we've talked about that before, and Mike made the good point that sometimes in certain instances, those things are necessary, especially when you're dealing with violent, undocumented immigrants. And that's who they said they were going after, the worst of the worst. But we do see that they continue to kind of mess that up a little bit. Anyway, to your point, William, I think there have been a few other not interesting in a good way, but troubling is a better word, civil rights violations at play. There was a recent report either by ProPublica or another investigative news source that said that these ICE detention centers, so for example, you've got someone who committed a crime in this country, they are not here legally, and then they serve their time in a local jail, let's say in Minneapolis, and then they're taken to an ICE detention center. They're saying that those detention centers are really flying under the radar. And I have an article here that we can show later, but those places are not doing what they need to do when it comes to human dignity. I mean, I think we can all admit that those people are still entitled to a certain level of basic humanity, food, water, shelter, clean air, not dirty water, clean water. And these immigration detention centers are not living up to that expectation, unfortunately. It's one of the reasons that I think there's been some hindrance when it comes to that Alligator Alcatraz place in Florida. I mean, that thing was thrown together so quickly, I don't think they were even considering human rights. And so there have been some human rights violations at some of these ICE detention centers. So I do hope that they remedy that soon. And then to your point about free speech, I mean, that is one of our most basic rights. And the case that immediately pops into my mind for that is the now independent journalist Don Lemon, who's on trial, or if not on trial, he's going through his case. He was just arraigned in Minneapolis the other day. And this is a federal case. They are discussing they have invoked the FACE Act, which we can get into later. But they're saying that he went in and disrupted this church service and caused the worshipers to not be able to enjoy their First Amendment right to worship. However, on the video, it clearly shows that he says, I'm here with these other journalists just to document these folks have come from outside to protest. And what they were doing was alerting the congregation to the fact that the pastor worked for ICE, which a lot of the congregants did not know. And they said that would have changed their decision to join the church. He was videoing. He ended up interviewing the pastor who gave him a voluntary interview, and then he left. And so they're saying that he was there to protest. He was there to cause violence and intimidate the worshipers, which I just see no evidence of. Here's the interesting thing, and this goes back to our overarching theme of doing what's right and the crossover between the two-party system. His main attorney, when you have cases like this, especially federal cases, you'll have outside counsel and you'll have local counsel. His outside counsel is, I believe it's pronounced Abby Lowell, who's a very prominent attorney. Okay. And then his local counsels, this person has to be from Minnesota or at least licensed to practice law in Minnesota. I'm blanking on his name right now, but it's the former head of the federal prosecutors in Minnesota who left his job after saying he felt pressured by this administration. So this former federal prosecutor in Minnesota who ran the Minneapolis office is now defending Don Lemon against his former colleagues because he believes that what they're charging Don Lemon with federally is so incorrect. And so to me, that's interesting because this guy, again, I'll find his name in a second, but he's a middle of the road guy. He was a federal prosecutor. He wasn't a defense guy. Don Lemon said, hey, can you help me? And he said, yes, I know the laws, even the federal laws. I know how they're supposed to apply to people who are here in Minnesota, and they didn't do it right. And so this guy is now being pitted against his former colleagues in the federal prosecutor's office in Minneapolis. So between ICE pulling out of Minnesota and those crazy tactics, Don Lemon being charged under the FACE Act, and then, of course, as I mentioned, you've got some of these ICE detention centers which are not abiding by basic human dignity. I do think we have a lot of civil rights, but also human rights issues going on right now. And I think it's important to discuss them.
I think it's violation. So what is the FACE Act?
That's a great question. I was just pulling up Don Lemon's attorney, so I can also read the FACE Act because it's in the same article. So the FACE Act actually has to do with reproductive health clinics. That's what it was designed to oversee. FACE stands for the Freedom
Okay.
of Access to Clinic Entrances. That's the acronym. And it came about in 1994 to prohibit the use of force, threat of force, or any physical obstruction to intimidate anyone providing reproductive health services, or later added to exercise religious freedom at a place of worship. So let me break that down, even though I'm not a licensed attorney yet. That act came about in 1994 to prohibit folks from intimidating people who work at reproductive health services. You all know this better than I do, but there must have been a time when that was very popular, to go and harass or intimidate people who were going into reproductive health clinics, I'm assuming to get abortions. So that's how the act came about. Then they have also added a portion that says you may not intimidate anyone exercising religious freedom at a place of worship. This act protects clinics and religious sites from physical violence and damage. And so to me, I don't understand how they're saying that Don Lemon physically violated or physically damaged that church space by going and talking to people on his phone camera. Maybe I'm missing something there, but the former federal prosecutor in that area doesn't see how this is valid either.
Right.
The FACE Act came about 3 prohibited actions. You may not use physical force or threatening words to intimidate. That's 1. 2, you cannot physically obstruct the entrance to the building, which no one did in this case in Minnesota. Or 3, you may not intentionally destruct or destroy property at reproductive health facilities because of your disagreement with what they're doing. I don't believe they intentionally destroyed property at this church. So I don't think any of those 3 core elements of the act were violated here. To me, it seems like another ploy, honestly, from Attorney General Bondi to get some of these folks who don't agree with the administration caught up in the criminal justice system. And I'm sure later we can talk about her horrendous hearing last week.
Oh, boy.
She embarrassed herself big time. Even Fox News said she embarrassed herself. And I can find that clip for you too. So I think all of this is just a ploy, William, to answer your question. But that's the FACE Act. Stands for the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances. And it was originally designed for abortion clinic experiences, not for this.
So I do have a question,
Mike?
because I don't have an answer. I have a question, and I think that I think everything that you said about Don Lemon is probably correct. He was there as a part of the media, and he was trying to document things that are going on. Could they extrapolate from his being there inside the room while people are worshiping? Could they extrapolate and go after him because his mere presence was disruptive along with the rest of the people? Can you go that far? Can you stretch things like that?
You can.
In your opinion, and again, I know you're not officially an attorney, but you do have an opinion, and I'd like to hear it.
Sure. No, I think it's a great question. My understanding is that, yes, you can. I mean, you can stretch many things in the law, and this administration has stretched many things, including standards. But that is, to my understanding, after watching, a few news segments on this story, that is what they're doing. They're saying that his mere presence, being there with protesters, was designed to intimidate. But again, as I said, the statute talks about physical intimidation, verbal threats, blocking the entrances. They didn't do any of that. They came, they yelled, they screamed, sure. They interrupted the sermon and said, hey, do you know your pastor works for ICE? And he was there with them recording. That to me is not a violation of the act. But yes,
Gotcha.
Mike, I believe the government in this case is extrapolating the act to say, well, his mere presence there with those folks who did go to disrupt, that violates the act. I think that's what they're doing. I just don't think that's going to hold up ultimately.
I don't think so. I don't think it will either, to be honest with you.
I don't think so either. And I agree with you. Go on, Mike.
I didn't have anything, but I would add something to this. I believe in the past and through history that when the press is involved in things, freedom of the press usually gets a pretty wide path of leniency to what they do, because freedom of the press here is one of the things that democracy relies upon to make sure that the government or other people don't oppress anybody. So they've always given the press a fairly wide berth. And I know there's exceptions to all of that, but generally speaking, you don't mess with freedom of the press. You don't mess with freedom of speech. Those are things that are fundamental to our republic, to our society, to the United States.
I think that's a great point, and I'll just respond, and then I have a question for you two, if that's okay. If that's not stepping on your
Sure.
toes too much, William.
No.
I want to ask y'all some questions, but let me say this: Mike is exactly correct, and this is one of the reasons why I think this Don Lemon case is so not only important but troubling. Because going back to 1791, those are the origins of the First Amendment, the right to freedom of the press, and in the 17th century, even in the 1600s, folks were arguing against the government censoring their views. To Mike's point, one of the cases that we've touched on in law school and that I learned about even before law school was the case of the New York Times versus Sullivan. That was 1964 when they were talking about libel and how far can we allow the press to go. And the court in that case, I believe it was the Supreme Court, established the actual malice standard for journalists. Actual malice. You have to actually intend to lie on somebody. You have to actually intend to go and physically harm somebody. And so it's so hard, right, to prove what is in people's minds. But to Mike's point, since 1791, we have had enshrined in the First Amendment this value that we should be allowed to critique the government, that the press is the way that we do that. Yes, we have a right to protest, but the press is an organized pool of people, journalists who go out and say, hey, I want to shine a light on this. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. We've all heard that. And so when we say, oh, you can't travel with protesters, you can't report on what they're doing, or you can't step foot in a church, to Mike's point, I think that gets a little dicey, because what if there's something going on in those places that we have a right to know about? Last point I'll make before I throw a question to y'all is this: just to clarify and confirm for folks, churches, while they seem public, are actually private property. So if they open your doors, private citizens are allowed to go in and worship. Don Lemon likely would have been allowed to go in and worship, but when it comes to the law, churches are private property. They're not public property. So you don't have the right to just go in there and do whatever you want. And so I think to Mike's kind of point again earlier, that is also going to be a part of the government's case. They're going to stretch it. They're going to say that Don was part of this group that was there to intimidate. But I also think they're going to say, they're going to play on the religious feelings of people and say, well, we can't allow churches to be disrupted because that's just, leads down a rabbit hole and you're not going to be able to worship and this and that. But if we're talking about the law, you do have the right, if they welcome you in, to protest. Now, the church can kick you out. But as I said earlier, the pastor stayed there and gave Don Lemon an interview during all of this. He wasn't wrangling these people and trying to get them out. And so I think it's important to note that while churches kind of seem public, they seem like a space that anyone is welcome into. And I think they should be spaces where anyone is welcome into. In the eyes of the law, they are private property. So if the owner of that property asks you to leave, you do have to leave. Don Lemon never stayed past his welcome. They never asked him to leave, and he said, "No, I'm staying." So
it would be like a business refusing service.
Yes,
Similar?
it would be like I go into Subway and I start acting rowdy, and they say, "Okay, sir, you got to leave
to
now.
go.
We're going to call the police." That's
Right.
exact same thing.
Right.
Okay.
And if you don't, they can trespass you.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you ask the question, a couple of points you made, which I thought was very relevant, especially if you were arguing the case and if you are Don Lemon's lawyer. Number one, you're right. The pastor gave him that interview. He was standing talking to them. And well, before that, Don says, "Hey, look, I'm not there here. I'm not here with them. I'm just here covering what's going on." Okay. And I think the press has a right to do that. But if the church doesn't want them there, the pastor could have said, "Hey, look, no, you've got to go. You must leave." And if he refused to leave, then he would have been breaking the law there because the church has the right. You said it's private property. They have the right to kick anybody out that they want. The second thing I want to say is that the preacher was there talking to Don Lemon. It wasn't like he was in the pulpit, okay, preaching. So I'm sort of confused of what was going on. How could he disrupt something that really wasn't happening at that time?
Right.
I mean.
Now, my understanding is that there was I don't even know if it was a normal church service. It might have been, a special church service talking about the recent incidents in Minnesota. Anyway, my understanding is that there was some sort of normalcy to the church service when the protesters came in, but by the time Don Lemon got in and was looking around for people to talk to, the pastor had come out of the pulpit and was not, yelling at them to leave or they'll be trespassed. He was looking for somebody to talk to too. So Don kind of grabbed him and said, hey, whatever Don said, I haven't watched the full interview, but I know they were standing there talking. And I don't believe that pastor was telling Don in that interview, you got to get out of here. I think he was explaining his case. It seems like you may have seen the interview, William. Was he telling Don to leave, or was he trying to explain himself?
Don was asking him a few questions. Then after a while, he said, well, look, I'm sorry, I've got to get back to the congregation. That's what he said to him. And Don did ask him one more question. And then he said, yes, he answered it. And he said, look, I'm sorry, I've got to go. Don said, okay, well, thank you for your time. But Don, like I said, clearly said in the very beginning that he wasn't with them. He was just, as a journalist, covering what was going on. And I thought it was worthwhile covering because this guy works for ICE and he's a preacher. And so the people wanted to wanted everyone to know, hey, look, do you know this guy is part of the organization that's destroying our communities? Now, before you get to the question, my question, and I mentioned this a week ago, what was ICE doing in Minnesota in the first place? I mean, they could have gone a lot of places. How about Florida? How about Texas? I think that if you want to find,
I actually have an answer for that.
I'm sure you do in a second. Yeah, and that's okay. But Texas and Florida, they have more, would you say, illegal immigrants in those places than you would in Minnesota? Because really it wasn't a serious problem in Minnesota. I think this was a political stunt to go into Minnesota. He doesn't like the governor of Minnesota, doesn't like the mayors there or anyone. So ICE actually caused more harm, and you end up was it 2 or 3? I know at least 2 got killed.
2 died.
Caused more problems.
2 died, and another guy got shot in the leg. Yeah,
right. And which they're now saying, I think that story about the guy who got shot in the leg, I think it's now in dispute. That's the story, I believe, where they said, well, somebody ran out and started hitting the ICE officials with a snow shovel, and they just came out last week and said that snow shovel story cannot be proven. So
right.
Anyway,
sorry, go ahead, Mike.
If you'd like to hear my opinion, based on what I've read and what I've seen, it appears to me that Minnesota was targeted because of their sanctuary city status. And this was a way to spank Minnesota for having that sanctuary city status, because
correct.
William's exactly correct. There are way more people here improperly that are on the border around Mexico. So you got Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, all the southern states have proportionally, I'm going to guess, more people that aren't supposed to be here in the country. But what was being done, which again, I think you guys are on track. This is a political move to spank Minnesota because they classified themselves as sanctuary. New York's another one. They're going to try to go after them, maybe, depending on how circumstances pan out after Minnesota, because as you can see, they're changing their whole strategy now. But I believe that's why they picked Minnesota, because they were a large Somalian community, a lot of people there improperly, and all going there because it was a sanctuary city. So that's my understanding of it. And if you guys have any other different view on that, I'd like to hear it.
Absolutely.
No,
agree.
I think you're right. Yeah. See, the thing about it is, the irony is that the majority of the Somalians in Minnesota voted for Trump.
That's true.
Yeah. I saw a clip. I wish I could find it, but it's buried in the stack somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but I saw a clip, and it was a so-called leader of the Somalian community, and he had a bunch of people around him, and he went on, did a press conference, and he said, in so many words, that they were supporting Donald Trump. I'm saying, what? Wait. Hold it. Why would he go after someone that's supporting him? It doesn't make any sense at all. And so the sanctuary city case means a situation means, or I think you're exactly right about that. But anyway, I think that with all they're doing, and Greer, I want to ask you a legal question. I know you want to ask Mike and I a question, but the people that have been harmed, just like American, and it doesn't matter what your ethnic background is now, they'll lock up anyone that disagree with them. It doesn't matter whether you're white, you're black. Oh, and also they're locking up or detaining Native Americans. Come on. So you're going to deport Native Americans? Now they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't deported a Native American.
Where are you going to deport them to?
Right.
That's my
I'm
question.
sorry for a little common sense here, but where are you going to go with them?
That was my next question, Mike. You read my mind. Where?
It's ridiculous. I think it's so interesting, and you alluded to this point, William, which is my point. And Dr. King talked about the fact that we're all interconnected, right? And the fact that, in a real sense, he said that life is interrelated, and that we're all, as people, tied in a single garment of destiny. And so some people might call it karma, but what it is, I think he was saying, is that when you really treat people as your equal and as your neighbor, things that you do, words you say, actions you take, impact and influence, either positively or negatively, the people around you. I've said this before on this show and others, that we live in community, we live in society. I may not agree with Mike, I may not agree with you on everything, William, but my actions have the capability or the capacity to impact you all's lives, or at least on an individual basis. The words that I say, right now, I choose to make them uplifting, but I could be speaking negatively of both of you right now. So the things we do are all tied together, is my point. On that point, I think it is so mind-blowing that the chief attorney for Renee Good's family, this is the woman who was in the car, who was shot in the face ultimately and died at the hands of ICE in Minneapolis. That family's attorney also was on the George Floyd case, because he's a civil rights attorney in Minneapolis. His name is Antonio Romanucci. He's also been on other police brutality cases. And so, to your point, William, 2 people died in Minneapolis, both white, by the way. And so I don't think it was a racial thing. Also, the 2 officers that shot Alex Preddy were Latino. And so this is all out of whack. We are not seeing people for who they are, regardless of race. And we're not really thinking, to Mike's point earlier, with common sense or any type of critical capacity. Because what I observed on the news for those 2 or 3 weeks in Minneapolis with Gregory Bovino, who got his uniform at, I don't know, Party City, and went in there walking the streets trying to intimidate people, but he has Napoleon complex because he's only 5 feet tall. And the way that his actions and what he was saying, and Kristi Noem's words, smearing the dead, calling people domestic terrorists with no evidence, saying Renee Good's wife was also a domestic terrorist because they were frequent protesters. That's what we're doing in this country. That'd be like saying those Boston Tea Party people were domestic terrorists because that tea, I don't know, that tea was combustible. Like, what are we talking about here? we need to get back to our roots. And those roots are in freedom, in protecting one another, in not fighting the government, but challenging the government and making them put up or shut up. And so, to your point, William, I just wanted to say we are all connected in this country. And when we get away from that idea, that's when it's easier to shoot and kill these unarmed people and then call them domestic terrorists after the fact. When you are close with the people who live near you, when you value your coworkers, when you value the faith leaders in your community, even the homeless people that you drive past every day, when you actually value them and see them for who you are, what happens to them matters to you. And I think we've moved away from that in this country. It's sad.
Absolutely. And I think that America, we've actually, and most of the world has been duped. The only people that's having a really, really good time right now, the ultra wealthy, because they've abused a system over hundreds of years. And that's why I have a few other clips we're going to get into about Black history also, because you said something profound, Greer. Is if we work together, do you know we can build the lower and middle class to having people having a better quality of life. However, the rich, they feel that if we keep them fighting down there, we can get away with our dirt.
Oh,
We can
absolutely.
get all of the money, and we can keep it all. Because I think racism and racist people, the hierarchy, this is exactly what they want. They want white people fighting black people. They want black people fighting Hispanic people. They want everybody fighting one another.
It's the old divide and conquer. It's very
divide
simple, divide and conquer.
conquer.
Yeah.
That is the game that's being played, and we haven't figured it out yet.
But I do have a comment. I do have a comment about something Greer said, if I can jump in real quick.
Please,
And I know we've been pushing off your questions on us. Greer. We're not trying
I'm not worried. A good lawyer
Okay.
knows that.
You get it in, Greer. We
But
promise.
I'm going to get it in. I'm going to sneak that thing in.
What Greer's talking about is society and community coming together so that we all know each other. We all work together, because the more connected we are with our neighbor, our brothers and our sisters, the more compassion we'll have for our brothers and sisters. But what's happened in America, and what I've seen over my years here, is that we're all becoming self-contained. We drive to our home, we open the garage door, we park our car in the garage, and we go in the house. We don't know who our neighbors are. I used to do investigations for the sheriff's department, and I do what we call knock and talks. I knock on the door, say, "Hey, listen, I'm your neighbors applied for this, and this, and we have to like check them out, make sure they're a person of good character. What can you tell me about your neighbor? Who? I don't even know who lives there. Well, what do they drive? I don't know. What color are they? I don't know. So I think that we've become so singular in our form that we spend time watching Netflix or on the computer or doing something else on our cell phones, and we have stopped communicating and socializing. And once we stop socializing with our neighbor, even our neighbors, far less our community and our city and our counties and states, if we stop that human connection, I think this is where the breakdown comes, because it's like, I don't know my neighbor. Why should I care about him?
Right.
Yep.
I think that's a great point. I mean, that goes to the question I have for y'all, but we're playing around the rosy a little bit here, because I want to make another point first.
No, go on.
And this is something we can circle back to. I think AI has an interesting role in this, because I saw a story the other day that there are now going to be AI cafes, because AI cafe people know that there are Americans who every day go and talk to AI as if it's their best friend. And they actually consider these AI chatbots their best friends. And so now there will be created AI cafes where people can go in and talk to their friend and know their friend is not a human being. Their friend is someone behind a screen who does not have their best interest at heart, to Mike's point, who cannot answer, well, at least not at the moment, cannot answer questions in person, verbally to the police to help. And so this technology, the rise of technology, although I think it's beneficial in many ways, including for the law, is also very dangerous, in my opinion, because now people are actually using AI to cite fake cases in their legal briefs. And the judge says, "Hey, did you actually research this case?" "Yeah, I did." "Oh, okay. What court was it in?" "Oh, I don't know." And then you go to the brief and it says something like the Circuit Court of Plankton. What? That's not a real court. So these people are skirting their responsibilities and also considering AI a friend. I think that's very tragic, to Mike's point, because instead of talking to people and getting to know the intricacies and nuances of their stories, they're sitting here behind a computer and typing away. And we've actually had cases in the past year or two of people who tragically have died because they were close to suicide, trigger warning for folks listening, and then the AI convinced them to do it, because that's what the AI is designed to do. It's designed to do what we want it to do, even though we know as human beings, sometimes what we want is not best for ourselves.
Absolutely.
I'll leave that sermon right there. What I want to ask you two, before we watch some of your videos, William, and move on, I actually have two questions, but I'll do one at a time. The first question is this. Mike made a point earlier about divide and conquer. That's what America's done for a while, or that's at least
The
what
world.
works. The world has done this, and that's what works to keep people separated. My question, and this is a genuine question. All of this stuff with ICE, all of this stuff with, arresting journalists, with these degrading prison centers, with the way that we're talking about one another, the way we can't get all of these Epstein files out in the open, the corrupt cover-up, I call it. People always say, I've heard this for the past few months, oh, this is not the America we know, right? This is not the America we were founded on. This is not, what the amendments were designed to do. My question for y'all is, isn't it? Is what we're living through right now, is that what America was designed to be? Because when I think about Black history and when I think about some of our past, I do see that history is repeating itself. And so to restate the question, when people say America is better than all of this stuff that we're doing, my question for y'all is it? Is it? Are we really better than this? Or is this what we've always been? And we've got to find a way to just take the good moments. I mean, are we really living through something so abnormal? So I would love y'all's thoughts.
Mike, you want to
that.
go first?
If you'd like
Mike,
me to.
Yeah, go on.
I was born in 1956. That makes me really old, Greer. So I've experienced the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the civil rights movements. I've been involved in riots. I was down. They shipped us out for mutual aid during the Rodney King riots to LA from our county. So I've seen a fair amount of man's inhumanity to man. But what I see and what I have seen and what I feel confident about is from the time that the 60s, let's say, when I was really, because I don't remember the 50s, but the 60s and the 70s, and we had race riots and all that. I can say that our communication with other races and such, I believe, has gotten somewhat better. It's not perfect, but I've seen improvements where, like William was talking about earlier, in history, very few Black people were recognized for their magnificent accomplishments. And now you don't see so much of that. So I think there's been improvement. I think we've made some ground in that. You see, like in law enforcement, it used to be, or firefighters, it was all white males. Well, now you see women, now you see people of color, you see more diversity going on. So I think we have progressed. And I think as we've progressed, we've created some other problems, because now you've created some animosity, because people say, well, they really shouldn't be there. We're doing it for them as a favor, just so we can say we're integrated. So I think we've solved some problems, but we've created other problems. But I do see it going in a positive direction, that I think people that are LGBTQ or women that want to go into generally male-dominated jobs, I think it's gotten better. Is it moving quickly enough? Not for me, it's not. I don't think it's moving quickly enough at all. But I have seen changes in, at least here in the United States. I can't speak for too much of other countries because I haven't been to many of them. But I think we, as the United States, we've done a little better job. But yeah, we still have a lot of problems. We've got a long way to go.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that, yes, there have been many improvements made. I want to say this. I think that the problem that we have and the world has, but especially, well, let's talk about the United States right now with our problems, because it is reflective, or it is like a mirror of everything else that's going on in the world. Anyway, I'm going to go back to what I'm saying. Greed is our main problem. It just seems like to me, a billionaire wants $2 billion. I mean, $1 billion isn't enough, and that's not enough, and that's not enough, and that's not. And so, how do they maintain their wealth? The way they maintain their wealth is that they keep most of the money, because it shouldn't be that 5% of the people own 70, 80% of the wealth in the country. And I think the figure might even be more than that. And when you have greed, then it also comes on and it can take on or create nefarious people. If they're that greedy, they're narcissistic, and then people will do evil things, some horrific. Most of the crimes committed in this country is behind what? Money. I think most of them are money driven. I really do. Okay. Somebody wants to, or someone wants to rob you. Someone wants to steal from you, whether it's the bank, whether it's the government, or someone on the street. People are greedy. They're selfish. And with technology, we've advanced. Oh, technology is through the roof. There's no question about that. The technology that we have today is far greater than it was 10 years ago. And what about 20 years ago, 30 years ago? I mean, it's just incredible. But we can't get along. Why is that? The most advanced society in the world can't figure out how to get along as people. And because I'm telling you, I think it's something that's driving this, and it all has to do with greed. That's my opinion about that.
It's not just greed, and I've talked about this many times on Boomerang. I really believe, and I've added one, but I've always talked about money, power, and fame, of which William's talking about one of the trifecta there, the money. And then many people are driven by power. Many people are driven by fame. Some people want all three. They want the money, power, and the fame. And I recently adjusted my thinking in that, and I would add to that money, power, fame, and sex. So I think those are the four governing things for not just the United States, but the world, for mankind. When I say mankind, I'm including women as well. But those are the four governing factors for why do we do what we do? Because we want one of those or all of them: money, power, fame, sex.
Wow. And that's interesting. Go ahead, William.
Go on, Greer. No, go on.
I think that's true. I think both of you are correct. I would probably take some type of view toward the middle, because I think some of those are connected in a way, Mike. But a lot of times I think the power hungry nature wins the day. And so I often see that money is involved, and the way that is demonstrated is through power grabs. And to William's point, we say, oh my gosh, they took this power. They swung this election. They did this. They did that. They did it for power. But there was actually a monetary reason behind it. That's the
they're all
point
interconnected.
That I think they're all interconnected, and that y'all are both talking about is behind the scenes. We're not paying much attention to that money. And as we've said on the show, and I think a lot of average Americans, to use that phrase, know these people at the top, Democrats, Republicans, folks in any office, they do have a certain level of power that the rest of us don't have. And so I definitely think that there is a difference in how those people operate at the top levels. Am I saying there's this corrupt cabal of elite wealthy leaders? I don't know, but these Epstein files are making me think differently about that. There's something going on. And the Epstein file story, I don't know if y'all have talked about that recently, but that hits on all four of what Mike's talking about. Those people in those Epstein files who we continue to cover up, all of those things are present in the Epstein files. And yet we're putting out the information about the victims who have asked us not to do that. And some of them have already named themselves anyway. So we'll come back to that. I think they're all interconnected. And for me, what's missing out of that list, Mike, is community. We don't seem to be doing things for other people, which is what so many faiths teach, which is what the strongest societies across the world teach. I take Taekwondo, as I've mentioned on this show, which is a Korean martial art, and that's one of their pillars. What you do for me, you should be willing to do for someone else in the community, because we're all interconnected. We don't do things for other people. And I think, Mike, to your point, even back during the times of segregation in the 50s, 60s, into the 70s, really, there was more community on both sides. There was more wealth generated by Black folks and marginalized folks back then. Am I saying we need to go back to segregation? No. I'm sure somebody will come on here and clip that and play it one day. But let me just say again, I don't think we need to go back to segregation. I will stand on the fact that some things were, dare I say, better but certainly different during segregation. The racial wealth gap was different. It looked different in general, but black folks and black small businesses did better in the 60s and 70s. Yes, I understand we were segregated, but to your point, I think a lot of people do fear this integration, Mike. And I've mentioned this before, but there's a book over here that Roland Martin, another very progressive but challenging journalist, wrote called An Examination of White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making Some White Folks Mad. And I think that's true. I think particularly on the issue of integration, there are some white folks, I think you were alluding to this, Mike, who are upset. And that's why we hear all of this stuff about it's got to be merit, it's got to be merit. Well, y'all didn't have any merit, and y'all were running the show for hundreds of years. And now that we're saying, hey, basic equality, please, now you're saying, oh, no, we've got to add in merit again. Merit was really never part of the consideration. And so a lot of these people who say, that's why I've said before, and we'll say again, a lot of these people that folks on the right are saying, oh, you're a DEI hire. No, they definitely earned it. They actually deserve to be there. You just don't like the fact that you don't have that job, and that this person who might have a differing view than you do is in that role. So I'm about equality, and I understand that equality means that sometimes folks have to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you're not going to get everything that you've gotten for 300 years because that wouldn't be equal. I think one of the best analogies for this is the running the race thing. If you start 10 minutes ahead of me and then you say, okay, Greer, now you get to start, what good does that do if you got a 10-minute head start? You've got to give me 10 minutes. You stop running for 10 minutes, let me catch up.
There you go.
Oh, but we gave you a leg up. What? That doesn't even make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
My second question, because I do want to get y'all's thoughts on this, especially Mike as a former law enforcement. And I know I'm switching the conversation a little bit, William. So if you want to play your videos first.
No,
please,
go on.
Please feel free. But it's a real simple question. Where is this Nancy Guthrie lady?
Oh, wow.
And what is going on in Arizona? That's out your way, Mike. I need to know your thoughts on that, because this is
that
crazy.
Is a really loaded question. I'm going to do my best to be careful what I say.
It's called the boomerang, right?
That's the boomerang.
This is going to sound very cruel, but it's my opinion only, not the opinion of this station. Based on what I know about what I've seen and read, and I've been staying up on it. In fact, it's on my other computer right now, trying to keep up with it. There's too many hokey things going on here. When I've dealt with kidnapping, the kidnappers deal with the family directly. They don't want law enforcement involved.
Right.
Because if law enforcement is involved, law enforcement has all kinds of tentacles to reach out and get you or trick you or find you or negotiate with you. The last thing kidnappers want to do is negotiate with law enforcement.
Right.
So I find it right off the bat, I find it very odd that if it's a legitimate kidnapping ransom notice, why did they send it to TMZ and the other media?
Bingo.
That's a red flag with me right off the bat. Something's really off here. And they're as far as I know, they're not communicating directly with the family from what I've seen lately. If I'm wrong, you guys correct me, please.
No, you're right.
God, I hate to say this live on the air. I believe, based on everything that I've seen with the blood, with her pacemaker disconnecting information from her phone, so the timeline seems correct. It seems like a home invasion. Maybe the home invasion went bad and it became a kidnapping. And then they're scrambling. I think somebody botched something somewhere here, because you wouldn't be communicating again with TMZ and the news media. God, everyone forgive me, because I really, truly hope I'm wrong. I believe she is no longer with us.
I think you're right.
And I believe and I've talked to my other law enforcement partners that have done kidnappings and done homicides and such. And we're all shaking our head, and we're all kind of like, we don't want to say it, but we believe that she's not with us any longer. We believe that the reason they're not showing proof of life is because they can't. And I believe within within probably the next, I'm not even going to say a week, I'm going to say within the next 4 to 5 days, they are going to find her or them, and this case will not be solved, but they will have answers. And I don't think it's going to be good answers. This is not going to end well. It's been 2 weeks now. She's elderly. She's on medication that she needs all the time.
Yep.
I'm actually of the mind that she may have died that night.
Wow.
As cruel as that could be, I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to be heartless or senseless, but I've got to use my critical thinking skills based on my knowledge and expertise. And I just don't see this playing out well. I've dealt with children being kidnapped. I dealt with one here in San Bernardino where they taped up mom and dad and took the kid down to Mexico, and they cut all his hair off and they found him in Calexico, I believe. I dealt with that one with the department. That's an interesting one. And the way they found the kidnappers is because they duct taped mom and dad up. Well, if you've ever worked with duct tape, when you peel it apart, your fingerprints get on it.
Right.
So when they peeled our homicide people are incredible. When they peeled the duct tape apart, they found all the fingerprints, so they knew who the kidnappers were. It's really an interesting story. I think that's about 10 years ago, something like that. But just based on that and talking with my partners that I worked with and retired guys that are guys and gals that are still currently working, this is not going to end well. There's too many red flags. They're not communicating with the family. There's no proof of life going on. The ransom notes going to anywhere but the family. This whole thing stinks, man. This is not going to end well.
Wow. I agree with you, Williams. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm of the agreement too. I don't think it's going to end well. I hope it does, and I hope I'm wrong about that. Something interesting. I believe her daughter is does she work for a TV network?
Yes, she works for NBC.
NBC.
She does
Savannah?
the Today Show, Savannah.
Yeah,
she has two daughters.
She's big time.
Yeah, and so she was supposed, it's my understanding, that she was supposed to do a segment on the Epstein files.
Yes, I have heard that recently.
And so I'm wondering, what is the connection there? And some journalists or TV broadcasters were saying, wait a minute, hold it. Is there a connection here that someone did this to scare this journalist or this anchor from talking about the Epstein files? You know, this Epstein thing has a lot of tentacles to it, doesn't it?
A lot of legs.
A lot of legs. So now we're finding out that there are so many more people that are involved in this than was known in the beginning.
I saw the other day, sorry to interrupt you, William, but I saw the other day that we might not be able to have our kids take school pictures anymore because the CEO of Life Touch, who does all the school pictures, was implicated and had to step down.
Whoa.
Y'all know about Life Touch, I'm sure.
Life Touch. I remember that organization. I mean, that company, right? And so this thing has so many different legs. It's like Epstein was dealing with foreign governments. He was dealing with the Israelis or the Israeli government. Also, I think he had some ties in Russia and some other places around the world. And they had was in cahoots with somebody talk about overthrowing governments and things of that nature. So it went way beyond just sex trafficking. It's sex trafficking. And
right.
And agree, I have we need your opinion on this also. This Department of Justice, can you even call that anymore? This Department of Justice and Pam Bondi. Oh my!
I hope
God.
you have some clips of that because I got this. I just laugh every time. Please tell me those are the videos you have ready.
Well, I tell you what.
I've been watching them too.
I'm going to say, let me see if I can go and pull up something. I'm going to let you and Mike take over and see if I can pull up something on that. But
I think the viewers need to see that.
It was embarrassing. That hearing was embarrassing. Anybody who defends that, I mean, I think that you really need to get some help. You need a checkup really, really quickly because number one, no class. You are the highest legal official of in the United States, the highest attorney. I don't think you can hold a higher position uh, and she act like a complete fool. I uh, I was really upset when she wouldn't even apologize to the victims there,
That was
and
not a good moment.
had not even met with them.
Correct.
It's incredible. And when the question went on, this person had the nerve to bring up the Dow Jones. I just said, "Are you?" I threw my hands up in the air. I said, "Are you kidding me?
That was nuts. That was just nuts.
Are you
I don't-
kidding me?"
I don't like the fact that she lost her cool. Not stop with what she said, which, like you guys are mentioning, is ridiculous. But the fact that she let her emotions get away with her, and as an attorney, Greer,
Ooh,
I'm sure
good point
you
there.
got to maintain you. If you can keep your head while all others are losing theirs, you're going to be the better person. That's a statement from my mother, who was in law. You can't lose your cool like that, because you're diminishing your value as in the position that you're in as the Attorney General for the United States of America. That's a huge position. And for her to lose it that way and go off on tangents, I lost a fair amount of respect for her after watching that. I'm sorry to say that.
I did too, and I didn't have much, but I know that she used to be very respected when she was, I think, Attorney General of Florida.
Florida,
She used to be a very respected attorney. She actually went after, obviously, in that role as a prosecutor, you go after, perpetrators of child sex crimes and rapes and murders and all of that. And now to see her, to your point, Mike, her decorum being lost every time now that she testifies. She had a whole binder, as y'all know, of personal attacks against not just Democrats, but also Republicans like Thomas Massey, who she knew didn't like her. She had personal attacks ready to go, so she would shift the conversation to that. She was telling Thomas Massey, who's working with Ro Khanna from your state, Mike, of California, to get these Epstein files released. She said to Thomas Massey, "Oh, you're a failed politician and you're just doing this to get your poll numbers up." She never answered the questions. She answered the questions that she had in her head. And so for me, I did lose a lot of respect for her. Again, not that I had a lot, because she did this at the last hearing. Now, it wasn't this bad, but she's gotten progressively more
aggressive.
She's gotten progressively more in attack mode as she goes through these hearings, Mike. And so I think too, to your point, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see the people asking the questions being super animated or super rude. I didn't see any of that until after she gave these ridiculous answers. I mean, Republicans and Democrats want to know how this Department of Justice has been operating. To William's point, I don't think it can even be called that. I mean, Pam Bondi said during this hearing, "I'm here to defend President Trump," at one point. That's not the role of the Department of Justice.
No, it's not.
She's not the president's defense attorney. It's not, to your point, or to all of our points earlier about the theme and substance of this country. That's never been what that department does. One of the most troubling things, and this goes back to my AI and privacy concerns statement, is that in her binder she had the search history of all the members of Congress who went over to the DOJ and searched up on those private computers anything related to the Epstein files or anything related to politics. And the viewers can fact check me on this, but there was a page of her binder that had the search history of multiple members of Congress, specifically Pramila Jayapal, out of the state of Washington, I believe. And you probably know this, Mike. I didn't know this until this past week. But when members of Congress want to go and see unredacted things, they can do that in certain instances, but they have to go to the Department of Justice building, sit down behind a Department of Justice computer, and search the files. So when we say, oh, they've been putting out the Epstein files, but they're redacted, certain members of Congress, to my understanding, can actually go and see the unredacted files, but they have to do it at the DOJ, at a DOJ computer. They must not take any pictures of what they see, and each member of Congress has a special login. I also learned this past week, side note, that every member of Congress has a special passport. So I was going through all of this privacy security stuff. I didn't know that.
Yep.
So she had the search history. I'll just stick to Representative Jayapal on this binder in plain enough view for a photographer to take a picture. I thought the whole point was for us not to know the ins and outs of all that stuff. if that's the case, just put out all the files unredacted. I understand wanting to protect people who have
I'm with you.
done anything, but I just don't understand why they're not putting these files out and telling us who, visited and all this stuff. We're finding out on our own. Howard Lutnick, who's running the tariff and trade policy stuff, said years ago, "Oh, I would never let my family around Jeffrey Epstein, and I've never been around Jeffrey Epstein. He's nasty and rude and all the rest." And then, as we've all seen this last week, it came out on a podcast or maybe in a hearing that he had taken his family to the island, to Epstein Island.
Yeah, it was a hearing. Yeah.
So, right. So he said the lie on the podcast, and then it came out in the hearing that he actually has been to the island, or at least on a boat with Epstein. I think from what I understand, he had lunch. He had a meal with Epstein, and his kids were off with their nannies, plural, going back to our elite conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're there with Jeffrey Epstein and others. So you lied. And I don't understand why something like that would need to be redacted. If somebody who was in leadership position in this country was running around with Epstein and thought that was okay, I kind of want to know that. I'm not saying they need to be fired. I guess that's the employment lawyer in me. But we need to know that. We need to know that you were running around with Epstein, because from what I've seen and read and studied a little bit, there's no way that none of his friends knew what he was doing. And so if you were visiting this guy, even if you heard rumblings of young girls going to the island, which is despicable, and you continue to be friends with this man, we need to know that, especially if you're in a leadership position. So this conservative view that, well, in the name of justice, we don't need to release all the names of the people that the government was investigating, because what if they had no say? Now their lives are ruined. Most of these people are elite, older, white, in many cases, men on both sides of the aisle, whose careers have been set for decades. So I don't understand that talking point. When the victims are saying, hey, we're okay with releasing the names, even though it's going to re-traumatize us, or hey, we have something to say, and we're going to come to these hearings until we get a meeting with the attorney general. Hey, we're going to go on the news and talk about this terrible thing that we experienced 30 years ago. And we're sitting around like, oh, I don't know if we should put that name of that guy out or this one. That's just disgusting to me. So anyway, structurally, the most concerning thing to me was that she said, I'm here, to defend this president and this administration. That's not the role. The role is to go where the facts lead and make sure that all Americans have justice and are secure in their rights and liberties and property. That was a very concerning hearing for me as somebody who's going into the field of law.
If you're going to look at things from a legal standpoint, you can't look at things backwards. You can't say, well, we think this person did this crime, or these people did this crime, and now we're going to prove it by going backwards and trying to manipulate the facts, clues, and evidence. You must, and I used to teach this with the academy and stuff. You must let the facts, clues, and evidence lead you to whatever the outcome is going to be. You can't do it in reverse. It has to be forward movement. You have to take one step at a time, just like you're going up to the second story. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And you can't jump any steps. You can't make assumptions. It has to be based on facts, clues, and evidence.
So do you think they're trying, are you saying that DOJ is doing that reverse maneuvering? Or the people?
Yes, I've seen that, where they'll come, and I've seen this on, and again, I always try to be fair and in the middle, because I don't know if you heard me say this, Greer, and if it offends you, I apologize in advance. But politicians to me are liars, cheats, thieves, and whores. Not all of them, but the vast majority. Dr. Demery taught me not to say all. But the vast majority of politicians, I don't trust any of them. I don't care which side you're on. They're liars, cheats, and cheats and whores. Their number one, this is my opinion again, their number one focus in their career is to get reelected or move to a higher office. Mm-hmm. As far as this, I'm for my constituents. I'm for the community. I'm here for the people, the little people, the big people, the workers, the common. I don't see it, because I look at actions versus words. Mm-hmm. And when I look at politicians' actions, they're not consistent with their words. Mm. So, and that bothers me a lot. So what I've seen on both sides is people beating their chest, to get on their soapbox and make themselves look good for their constituents. But I don't buy into a lot of this. And not to segue into something that's, I'm not trying to take the focus off what you said with the current Department of Justice, but Mayorkas had 4 years with Biden,
Mm-hmm.
and they had access to all the Epstein stuff then.
That's true.
Why was there no questions then? Why wasn't there any uproar then? Why wasn't anybody upset then when they had access to all the stuff and it wasn't released? So there's a lot of blame to go around.
Absolutely. Absolutely there is. And I don't know why, to answer your question, that stuff wasn't released under Biden. I will say, and this is not a rebuttal to your point, but I will say this current push to release the files and investigate who was involved with Epstein, and the viewers can fact check me on this, but it was actually started by the MAGA folks, this most recent wave. They were saying, we need to know about this Epstein guy. We want to see what's conspiracy, what's not. The MAGA folks were actually like, let's get all of this out here. Now, maybe it was because they thought the Clintons were in there and maybe few Republicans, but this recent wave, MAGA folks were pushing. I believe it was folks even like Tucker Carlson or maybe Charlie Kirk, who were saying, we need to know about these Epstein files. Now, this was 2-3 years ago. And they were saying, hey, even Trump needs to release them. When he gets elected, of course, they were hoping he got reelected. He needs to release them. And Pam Bondi said, hey, they're on my desk. I'm going to release what I have. And now, to your point, Mike, we're doing this back and forth. So, sure, they should have released them when Biden was in office, but they definitely need to release them now. And the public wants them to release them. So, to your point about if they're just trying to get reelected, well, Trump is term bound, but we'll see what happens with that. They should be all clamoring to release these files, which is why it's very interesting that Massey and Ro Khanna are working together. I haven't seen that type of consistent, continual bipartisan effort in a long time. I mean, both of them, Massey from Kentucky, Republican, Khanna from California, Democrat, saying, we're with the survivors. We need to get all this out there so that if new stuff needs to happen to these people, whatever the statute of limitation is, because this stuff was evil. Anyway,
isn't it your opinion that that's the correct way to go about this? This should not be a political football to throw back and forth or kick the can down the road. This common sense dictates to me that major crimes were committed and people need to be held accountable for these major crimes. Whoever it is, I don't care if it's Trump, Obama, Biden, I don't care. I don't care which members of Congress get hurt out of this, senators or Congress people. If you did the dirty deed, then you need to be held accountable. Not deserve to be held accountable. You need to be held accountable.
Right. You got those videos ready, William? I'm ready to laugh.
I got those videos. Let me comment on what you and Mike just said.
Yes.
And why they weren't released during Biden years. Matter of fact, we could even go back to Trump's first term, because they knew about it then. They had the information then under that administration.
Very true. Yep.
Now, when it came to Biden, it was the Ghislaine Maxwell thing was going on. It's my understanding that they didn't look at it. Now, let me go back 1 second. Merrick Garland was a disgrace. I'm going to say this.
I agree.
He didn't act on what he should have acted on in a timely fashion. And if he had, we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in right now. But the thing about it is, Epstein died in 2019. If my memory is correct, Trump was the president then. But it's my understanding that when it came to Biden, that Ghislaine Maxwell, there was an ongoing investigation, and they couldn't release the information then because it would have maybe given her get out of jail free card because of that. It's my understanding that it could have tainted the jury, could have tainted a lot of things if they had released that information. However, right now, I don't want to hear about, Biden didn't do this and whatever. We'll have the Attorney General. It's on her desk now. They have the information now. The FBI have the information now. Right. I don't want to go back to George Washington. I want to talk about what's going on right now. And just because someone did something wrong or didn't do what you thought they should have done back then, let's talk about right now. Because Merrick Garland didn't do his job. Let's say he didn't, but I just explained that it was an ongoing investigation, and maybe that was the reason why he didn't. Okay, but the thing about it is, because you say, well, he was I said that, hey, I don't think he was a very good attorney general. I really don't. However, you can't blame it and say, well, because he didn't do his job, I'm not going to do mine. I mean, right is right, wrong is wrong. Okay.
Right.
So let's say he didn't. Well, now it's on you. The ball is in your court. And he ran on that. He ran on that. So, but anyway, back to what you said. I do have that video. Let's get to it right now.
And real quick, William, before you hit play, let me just clarify. Real quick, let me just clarify. I did a fact check on myself, and there has not been evidence produced yet that the LifeTouch CEO is in the Epstein files, or that the organization is in the Epstein files. I just want to clarify that what I was saying, that LifeTouch put a pause on their school pictures because that was a rumor that was started. So let me be clear. He was not in the Epstein files that we have seen. Now, he might be one of the redacted names, but LifeTouch, they just put a pause on their pictures to investigate. Just wanted to clarify.
Okay, no problem at all. And speaking of redactions, this Department of Justice, check it out. They redacted the names of the perpetrators or alleged perpetrators, but they left open the names of the victims. Oh, was that done on purpose? How could you not? I think it was done on purpose. I think it was to intimidate the witnesses, because you have to know what you're doing. Whoever redacted that, I mean, you're going to redact the perpetrators or alleged perpetrators, but you don't redact the victims. That makes absolutely no sense. But having said that, let's get to it. Let's see what we got here. Hold on one second, gentlemen. All right, you can keep talking. Here we go, right here. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, here we go.
Next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is
state.
pathetic, Mr. Chair.
Will be in order.
I am not asking trick questions here.
You
The
got your
American
5
people
minutes.
have a right to know the answers to this.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything.
did tell you, because we
Washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to
Yes.
answer the question
How-
the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it. How
Chairman
many have you
Jordan, I'm
indicted?
not going to get in the gutter with these people,
How many
but
have you-
I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time
I
belongs.
think it's very
Reclaiming
interesting.
my
I
time.
think it's very
Reclaiming my time.
interesting.
And you can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time.
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted him
clock.
twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted-
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time
Reclaiming my
belongs
time
to the
and
gentleman
roll back
from
the
New
clock,
York.
please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when
Reclaiming
you ask
my-
a question, the
The
witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she
Right.
gets
The
to answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like
Que-
the answer,
Reclaiming
Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
And
seconds,
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Reclaiming my time.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming-
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you
You
started.
don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you, because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not a
said that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Reclaiming my time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None of
has
the perpetrators have been
expired.
brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
have been
of the
dedicated to
gentleman has
pursuing Trump's
expired, and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
there
no
was
longer
no
works for
question
American
in
people.
there.
It works
Order
for Donald
response.
My wife said, if you win, we'll fly to Asia.
We can pause it right there. There's so
Okay,
much to unpack just from that.
Okay, let's go back. Man, oh man, oh man. What a circus. I think it is below the dignity, if I can use that word, of the office of the Attorney General to perform that way. I was upset because, and Jim Jordan, later on in the clip, he says, well, you may not like the answer, but she can answer it the way she wants. No, that's not the way it works. She's supposed to answer the questions. As a matter of fact, I think the way she has been performing, the lack of accountability, the illegal stuff that she has allowed to happen and still doing, the cover-up, it's a complete cover-up. I think she should be impeached. I think they need to use what I think is Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution. They need to get rid of this entire cabinet.
It's a terrible cabinet. Everything in this cabinet is rotting.
It's right.
They've said that, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but folks have said that they want her to resign or they're going to try to impeach her. They've said the same about Kristi Noem, specifically after the domestic terrorism lies that she told. But I was writing down a few of those quotes. I mean, you don't tell me anything. I tell you what I want to tell you. This was to Jamie Raskin. And then she said, you washed up lawyer, which is crazy. This dude, I think, still has his law license. He just beat cancer not that long ago. No class. Then she said to Nadler, I guess, I'll answer how I want to answer. That's what? That would, if one of her witnesses in a murder case said, I'm sorry, Madam Attorney, I'll answer how I want to answer. I'm not going to answer your question. What do y'all think? Mike's laughing because he knows. What do y'all think she would do? She would lose her ever-loving mind and have the judge make him do something. You know, maybe I'll try that. Maybe not in my first year of practice, but maybe in the second. When I'm responding to the judge, I'll say, Judge, I'm sorry. I want to talk about something else. I'm not going to respond to your question.
Hey, Greer, before you do that, make sure you look up the word contempt.
Exactly. Exactly. These people need to be held in contempt. The other thing, and then I'll let y'all respond. But the other thing I wrote down was that lady from Vermont. She's a Democrat. Her name is Becca Balint, B-A-L-I-N-T. She was one of my favorites. We didn't get to the clip. You might have it, William, but Pam Bondi basically called her anti-Semitic, not knowing that she's Jewish and her grandfather was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh my.
And this actually caused Becca Balint to storm out of the hearing. This same Becca Balint, she was my favorite. She got in the best dig of the day. You might have this, William, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Mm-hmm. She was questioning Pam Bondi, and she misspoke at the end of her question and said, yada, 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 Madam Secretary. And Pam Bondi said, I'm not a secretary, I'm the Attorney General. Mm-hmm. And Becca Balint said, oh, couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell. I
thought that was the best. Did you see that, Mike?
Oh, I did.
Yes.
I did. That's a mic drop right there.
That was a mic drop. And that was the end of her questioning. I couldn't tell. Because none of us could tell. She was not acting like a level-headed attorney throughout that hearing at all. That's objective.
Never lose your cool.
Yeah. You know, not only that, she was disrespectful. And also I found out when they certain Congress men and women went to, they had to go down to their office, the Attorney General's office, I believe, to look at supposedly the unredacted files, only to find out that a lot of them were still redacted.
Oh, I didn't know that. So they were redacted even on the DOJ computers?
Yes, on the DOJ computer, they were still redacted. Some of those were still redacted.
Wow.
And which is crazy. To be like. And they also spied on the Congress people that went there. Okay, you guys hear about that?
Mike and I were talking about that while you were searching up the video. Yes.
They went and spied on
there's
them.
a trace. You can trace back.
I don't know whether that's illegal or not, but it's certainly unethical.
Right. I don't think it's illegal. It's definitely unethical because the purpose, as Mike and I were talking, is to go to that DOJ building each congressperson has their own unique login and they get to look at unredacted stuff. So for Pam Bondi to have that in her binder and be talking about it, or at least have it visible to a photographer, that seems very unethical. But I don't think it's illegal necessarily. I believe
you're correct. It's not illegal, but again, it's unethical because what they're doing is they're maybe this is the wrong term, but they're spying on what you're looking at so they can use it against you at a later date.
Absolutely.
So they're weaponizing your search records. They're weaponizing it to use against you later.
Let me see if I can find that other clip. You guys continue.
I thought something else that was funny, Mike, was, and this shows you the mindset. Again, not all, but a lot of these cabinet members who are a lot of the wealthy elites we've been talking about. Pam Bondi, to this Becca Ballant person who's from Vermont, she said, "I'm not answering your questions, blah, 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 blah. You're from a small state." That was one of the things we heard in that video. And I'm like, so you don't represent the people of Vermont, or you don't like the people of Vermont? That's a terrible mindset for someone in position of leadership to have.
How tone deaf is that?
I mean,
I think they should fix Congress, and the way I would fix Congress, because I've listened to this stuff on the right side and I've listened to it on the left side. So I've seen people on either side refuse to answer questions or to babble and go on and go on and on. Again, I try to be very fair. This is not a left or right thing. It's both sides thing. And I think what I would do to fix this is, like, you give them their 5 minutes to say whatever they want, and then you cut their mics. And the witness, if the witness isn't answering the question, the question posed to them, cut their mics.
I like that a lot. I've thought about
and
that.
a lot of this nonsense would go away. And just like a judge,
you know when else they should do that? During presidential debates. And I think they've started to do that.
I would, cut their mics.
Absolutely.
If you're in court and the judge doesn't like the back and forth that's going on, what does the judge do? He takes control and he knocks the nonsense out of it. He said, no, we're not having that in my courtroom. And essentially,
and if the witness doesn't answer, the judge will direct the witness to answer the question posed, or she will hold them in contempt.
And you know what, bailiff, go put him in a cell for 2 hours and bring him back, or bring him back tomorrow. No, there's for your actions, you have the consequences. If you're going to behave like a moron or a child, then we're going to spank you like you're a moron or a child. And I think they need to control this stuff, because this makes America look really stupid. When other countries look at this, and they do watch this, they watch our congressional hearings and Senate hearings, and they look at it like, and I know other countries are bad too, because I watch some Canadian stuff, and man, they're screaming at each other. But,
they do.
You know what? If you're going to be a child in the room, then we'll remove you from the room. If you want to be an adult, then come here and converse correctly and be intelligent about it, be adult about it, and stay on topic.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And some people have posed that. They were saying, and that's something that's missing as well. Of course, there's the community piece, but accountability. Somebody posed that. They said, well, why didn't, whatever, it sounds harsh, but they said, okay, if she's not going to answer questions, why is she even at the hearing? Detain her, put her in a room or something. Why does she get special treatment? Cut the hearing or something. And why are you wasting our money and time to conduct these hearings? Yes, Mike, it does happen on both sides, but with an issue of such importance here, Epstein files and how DOJ is running in general, you shouldn't be able to filibuster that on either side. But I guess to William's point, we're talking about this right now. That was nuts. And now when one of them asked them, hey, will you turn around and at least recognize the survivors in the room? Yeah, maybe that was a PR ploy, but that's when I knew she wasn't going to be at all humble, because when she didn't do that and she didn't even turn and look at the people who've been requesting meetings with her, I knew it was going downhill from there. And so if you have, to your point, Mike, somebody who's combative, like you said, in regular court, if the judge will say, all right, you're going to go cool off in a room, or we're going to take a recess and give you 5 minutes to talk to your attorney because I'm about to hold you in contempt. You don't just let this stuff keep going. It's not productive.
Let me ask you a question.
It's not productive. That's a very good way to put it, Greer. It's not productive. I like that.
It's not. I got a question to ask you guys. Well, can't the Congress hold her in contempt?
They can. That is something they can do, yes.
But what's the Greer? You have to help me with this. What's the debate clause or something? There's something that's allowed in Congress where speech and debate. Is that what it is?
Yes, there's a speech and debate clause, and I'm doing some real-time fact checking. But my understanding, even without looking it up, is that there is a I'm blanking on the word. Shoot. Anyway, there's a protection around members of Congress for what they say on the floor of either the House or the Senate. But when you're talking about cabinet members or any person who comes to testify as a witness, they can be held in contempt. I think that even applies to Congress members.
Gotcha.
She, of course, is not a Congress member. So I just looked it up. What is the process for holding a cabinet member, which she is, in contempt? It involves a congressional committee investigating the incident, issuing a subpoena, and then Congress voting on a contempt resolution. So, and this can all be done in an expedited fashion. It's been done before, but this resolution to hold someone in contempt and then basically detain them has to be passed by a full vote of both the House and the Senate.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen. Yeah.
Then if, let's say, pigs fly and that happens, then the subpoena is referred to the U.S. Attorney General for prosecution of that person.
Okay. All right.
And the Department of Justice has discretion over criminally charging that witness. So that tells you what's going to happen with that crap.
That tells you exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Okay. Like you said, when pigs fly, right? Okay.
Right.
I've got that clip. Let's see what we have here.
All righty.
All right. Let's see. All right. Let's do it.
Donald Trump. I want to move on to another
Can I answer
question.
your question about protecting?
You answered the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's the video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
What if you could clean your retainer at the touch of a button? No more brushing or tablets. Over 4 years ago, our team of engineers...
Hey, I was watching that ad.
And that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most
She's not even a good actress.
transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm going to claim my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said there's no
President
evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
that
stop the
he
clock. Please stop the
sign
clock.
the legislation. This is
Time.
this
I'd like
is
to reclaim
ridiculous.
my time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a
I
crime.
believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not
can
ask a
respond.
question,
He
Mr.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff.
Going
I
after
did not
Donald
ask a
Trump.
question.
Meeting will be in order.
As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released. And yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Wow.
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going
Like,
to
you
teach you
just
the
made
rules
a
again.
face.
You're the Attorney General of the
She's
United States.
deflecting.
You're the
Obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
With
And the rules,
obsessed with Donald Trump. You
No.
have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time
Mulligan will be
restored. I'd like my
sentenced
time
next week
restored.
in your district. In your district,
stop
and you
the
don't
clock.
even know about it, about keeping children
Time belongs
safe
to
from
the
online
gentleman.
predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. Gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this, because this is the Attorney General of the United States, whose job is law enforcement. We've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before. We have only 5 minutes, and so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to
Excuse
answer?
me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too. So, Ms. Bondi, the way it works is we ask you a question and you answer it. And if you go off on a wild goose chase, another tangent, you start reading statistics or you start talking about stuff going on in our district. And by the way, I invite you to my district. Come to my district, but that's not what we're here to do today. Okay, so, and you do that, then we're allowed to say we reclaim our time. At that point, you have to be quiet. You have no choice. You have to be quiet. So I hope you understand the rule of this point. Now, here's what I want to ask you.
Wow.
You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
Gentlelady can respond. If she wants to.
Thank you, Chairman. He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own
Chairman,
district who
Mr.
preyed
Chairman.
on girls.
Mr.
ages
Chairman.
15
Well, you know
to
what? If he were part of the
in
Epstein
social
investigation, you wouldn't
media
do anything
and
about it.
online chat rooms and committed sextortion. Yet he didn't even know in your tiny little district who he
Chairman,
was.
According to your department, a child is sexually abused in the United States every 9 minutes. And the vast majority of survivors never get justice. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Epstein case has resonated so deeply with so many Americans. And the other reason I think is because it has revealed a 2-tiered system of justice. And the powerful are protected and the survivors rarely get any accountability.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowel.
Right there.
Why does grandma's tummy look pregnant? This blocks your bowels.
Okay.
And the Epstein files contain.
Okay, let's get back here. Hey guys, all right. I'm gonna stop this for a second here. This is absolutely one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. I mean, no class, no professionalism, dodging, covering up. I mean, what do you call this? And I think you mentioned Greer also. The world is watching this. Or Mike, or did you say that?
Was
the
Mike.
world is watching us. And they have to say, what is that clown show in the United States? The clown shows that go on each and every day. No law, no order. And they say, hey, oh, we're a country of laws. Really? Are you serious right now?
Law and order is what they say a
Law
lot.
and order. I don't see it, Greer. You and Mike, both of you guys can comment on what you just saw.
You
and
won't
heard.
see it in that hearing right there. There was no order. Jamie Raskin is correct. I mean, to Mike and I's point earlier, though, that one thing he said, "Oh, we've never seen witnesses behave this way." I mean, this was, I guess, pretty special. But there are witnesses who do behave that way often. And to Mike's point, there definitely need to be reforms to the hearing process because that doesn't serve the American people at all. It is unproductive to ask a question. Will you form a joint task force? Okay, let's just hear again how this sounds. Will you form a joint task force to investigate? Here are the possibilities. Yes, no, yes for this reason, no for this reason. What did she say? Do you know who Chase Mulligan is in your district? What? Some guy who's been convicted, I think, already of extortion or sextortion, whatever. What? That doesn't make any sense. That's not rational. That's not a rational response to the question. And then she says, "Thank you, Chairman, for telling me I can answer the question." And then she doesn't answer the question. She says something else. She says something crazy. Something else that I didn't realize that goes back to what we were talking about earlier is Jamie Raskin said there are only 4 computers that Congress people can use at one time to look at unredacted information in the DOJ. That's very interesting. And then he confirmed that they redacted stuff even on those computers that didn't need to be redacted, and unredacted personal information about the survivors, which is not part of the deal. Important point, guys. When I say not part of the deal, I mean the law that Congress passed a few months ago or a few weeks ago to reveal the Epstein files. It said, do all you can to protect the survivors' information, and you can show some of the perpetrators' information. This was a bipartisan bill that Donald Trump signed. So that's breaking the law. If you're telling me that you as a member of Congress went to the computer and they didn't follow the law, that's my point. How do we hold these people accountable? How do you hold the Attorney General accountable for not following the law? You hope that she doesn't do that, but we've seen before where cabinet members break the law. So I do think it's a big problem when we talk about federal government officials. How do we hold them accountable when they break the law? Let me say, to Mike's point about all or nothing, this does happen sometimes. We saw Bob Menendez of New Jersey held accountable for corruption. And we saw Hunter Biden held accountable for filling out that gun form incorrectly. So those have been 2 instances recently when people connected to the federal government have been held accountable, but it doesn't happen enough. I do not understand why they let this hearing go on like this. And I mean, some of the Congress people, sorry not to be ageist, but they got walked all over. I mean, Jerry Nadler, he could have done a lot more, but he's on his way to the retirement home. I mean, we also got to talk about what it means to be, aware and have your wits about you. And I think he's an attorney as well. He's going to be primaried, I think, if he's even running for re-election. But a lot of these Congress people on either side, they didn't even handle her correctly. They just kind of sat back and let her do this, which is why you saw this person who's on the screen now, Becca Balint, kind of rise to the top because she was one who called it out. No, I'm not anti-Semitic. No, I'm Jewish, or her grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. No, you're not going to get away with saying whatever you want to say. You're the Attorney General, really? You're not acting like it. I mean, now she's gone viral. But you've got a lot of these people who are just go along to get along people in Congress, and they let these people get off unaccounted for.
Well, I tell you what, you mentioned Hunter Biden, and you also mentioned who was that? Menendez. As well.
Yes, out of New Jersey.
They're both Democrats. Okay,
You're right.
They're both Democrats. So you can't say that Biden had anything to do, or he was targeting Republicans. He let his own son be investigated and convicted. Okay, so I don't want to.
And then pardoned him. You forgot the last part, and then pardoned him.
Yeah.
Tell the whole story. Tell the whole story.
He did pardon his son. Guess what? I would have too. I would have too, because
that was an interesting case. Mike's right. That was an interesting case.
He did. He did pardon him.
I don't think he pardoned Menendez. And Trump also pardoned all the J6ers. So if we're going to do the 2 sides thing, let's definitely talk about
again, there's a lot of blame to go around for bad acting and bad performance and bad decisions. And just don't get me started.
I'm with you. I'm just saying that one is kind of blatant right there, stares you in the face. I mean, anytime folks on the right, not you, Mike, but folks in Congress talk about, oh, Biden did this, he was loosey-goosey with that, he pardoned that. I mean, Trump pardoned these people who actually talk about physical intimidation and the FACE Act and blocking people from entrances. That's what those, not all, but most of those January 6ers did. I watched it on TV. I was in Colorado at the time with my own eyes. So that was a crazy type of pardon. I think there is a little more to the story with Biden and his son, but still, that was clearly nepotism. But I don't think anyone's pardoned Menendez. So that is an example of a Democrat who's been held to account.
He did not pardon Menendez. And guess what? I would have pardoned my son too, because I knew this upcoming administration would have gone after him and just threw the hammer at him. Okay. But anyway, man, oh man, like I said, it was disgraceful to see this. It just doesn't make any sense. And it seemed like to me that Congress needs to get a spine, because there's no way in the world, if I were, okay, well, speaking of the Speaker of the House, we talk about weak as a worm, Mike Johnson, this cat.
He's terrible.
Oh God, he's going down as the weakest. And you know, guys, he sent the Congress home for another 10 days, right?
I didn't know that, but wow.
Oh yeah, he just did. He sent the Congress home for why? This is absolutely crazy. They were shut down last year for, I know it was like 83 days or something like that. What are we paying these people for? They're getting on average, I think, $178,000 a year. Why? Yeah. Boy, how do you get that job? I mean, you take off
you sell your soul.
Man, $178,000. And yeah, well, that's what they're doing.
Sell your soul to the devil.
The shutdown are you referring to the shutdown in the fall, William, last year?
Yeah, well, yeah, the shutdown in the fall.
It was 43 days.
It was 43 days, as I recall.
No, I'm talking about the time that I'm talking about before the shutdown, because remember, he sent Congress home for about 80 some odd days combined.
Oh, okay. Okay, I misheard you.
Oh, no, the shutdown, I agree, 43 days. But what I'm saying is when he sent Congress home for 80 some odd days.
Yeah, all right. They go home a while. I think it's maybe during the summer recess or something. And you're right. I don't know really.
Yeah, but that's not 80 days. Yeah, that's like a vacation, and that's okay.
That's more than a vacation. I would love for if I got 83 days of PTO.
Like almost 3 months. It's almost 3 months.
Hey, guys, how about this? Maybe I'll ask my law firm when I start in the fall if I can have 83 days of PTO. And watch this, Mike. And when they say no, I'm gonna start talking about the Dow. But the Dow was up yesterday.
The Dow Jones. Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's a good point. Unbelievable.
What a mess.
Unbelievable, man. It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
Well, I've got to run, guys. I got to go do some more studying. But thanks so much for having me. I think this was another great conversation on the Boomerang Show.
Hey, thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, look, you'll always get an invitation. If you can make it, we'd love to have you. If you can't, we do understand. And
thanks, my friend.
Y'all have a great week.
I appreciate you.
My friend. You too. All right, Greer. Hey, Mike, always a pleasure having Greer on.
Oh, gosh, it's that late already. I didn't even realize. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be back in about an hour. It will be Sunday Night Gold with yours truly, WB, a.k.a. Wild Will, and the Jazzy Diva. So, guys, kick back, grab a glass, and enjoy the show. All right.
Great conversation tonight, William. I like this a lot. I appreciate Greer immensely. He's got a really focused view on things, and he's able to articulate it correctly. So I appreciate that young man a great deal.
So do I. He will be, no doubt in my mind, he's on his way to being successul. It's no question in my mind.
When he becomes a lawyer, I'm going to put him on retainer just for me.
Hey, man, me too. But and guess what?
I want that young guy in my corner.
I don't blame you, man. No, hey, great young man. Great young man. Hey, Mike, enjoy your evening, my friend. A great conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the conversation, please subscribe. Download that app, that's Studio W. That's Android or Google. So either way, let's do it that. You can catch us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Oh, by the way, Alexa and that website, StudioW.buzz, StudioW.buzz. Enjoy your Sunday.
Good night, William.
Good night, Mike.